Hi, and welcome to another episode of Wine and Wisdom. I'm Thomas Hoang, and you're listening to the TL podcast, where knowledge is shared and no one takes themselves too seriously.
Hello, beautiful people.
How about that?
How's everyone going?
The lightning. Playing the lightning.
Under lightning and wine and wisdom. Here we go.
Yeah.
I can't believe it. Anything that can go wrong will go wrong with me organizing it, I'd say.
Murphy's Law, mate.
But the lightning struck.
Yeah, but the lightning, it's just what's 1 second. However, there's worse. There's people whose house is going to be underwater.
Yes.
There's going to be water rising in some parts of Sydney, so there's worse than just a hitch in the power here.
Absolutely.
How you guys going? How are you going?
Going great. Where are you, Stephen Thompson?
Currently residing in a hotel while our house is finished renovating.
Yeah.
Beautiful. You look like you got a gold serious wall behind you there.
Oh, no, that's called curtains.
Okay.
Downtown Parramatta. So Lisa's been doing a course down here. So we've just popped down here and we can all work remotely these days. So that's what I've been doing every day. So
Beautiful. Very good. Very
He
good.
can't live without. She has to go to her course and then she has to...
don't worry, our poor kids were told by the Tyler, walk in the front door, walk straight upstairs and do not walk on anywhere else in the house. So I thought, I could just imagine them sitting in their beds eating McDonald's. So I'm glad I could go to a nice restaurant last night. So
Very good.
They better not join at this point in time. Let's get into the wine quickly.
Absolutely.
Quickly. Well, I think I may have...
Before we go on, just sort of share with everyone, he didn't give us the easiest of tasks this week.
come on.
Searching out, we had to get a red. It was a red, right? I hope it was a red. Jeez.
Yeah, it was
a red
red.
from Mudgee, and it had to be at least 2017 or earlier, right? And I don't know about you guys, but it wasn't an easy search.
No, well, not
Third
easy.
bottle shop I was the lucky one, I think. So,
Well, I went to 5 or 6 bottle shops and I still didn't qualify. So
is there that many in Port? I mean, seriously.
I found bottle shops that I didn't know existed. I went to my go-to guy at Dan Murphy's, I think his name's Michael. He's been my help every week. Even he said, "Is this a stitch up? Is this a joke?" And I said, "I think you're right. I think I think this is a wild goose chase." But the best I could come up with is a 2019 from Mudgee, Bunnamagoo.
2019. That's not 5 years.
I know. But unless I got on a plane and flew to Sydney to get myself a bottle to qualify, which would have been an expensive wine and wisdom, I thought I just have to dequalify myself this week and
What a cheat.
lose.
All right.
That means lunch. You know that, Lou? That means lunch, right? You know that, right? So
No, that wasn't in the contract.
that's converted now to Dom. His mate Perignon. So
Anyway, so I'm not going to talk much about mine. It doesn't qualify, so you guys go right ahead.
All right. What about you, Stephen?
I managed to find the only bottle in Parramatta, thanks to Velour Cellars. It's a bottle of Robert Stein Reserve Cabernet Sauvignon. So, and it's a 2012. So,
Wow. Wait. How much was that?
$50.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. You see, the guest is outdoing the host. What's happening, Louise?
All right. Sounds good.
Okay, what about you? Did you find any?
So, like Lou, I went searching and I got a Bunnamagoo as well. And I thought, what's it mean? What's Bunnamagoo mean? It's actually Aboriginal.
Yeah.
No, it's an Aboriginal word for meeting of waters, because it's where two rivers join into one. So
That's what year was it though?
And this is a 2016. This is a Cab Sav Merlot.
Yeah.
2016. So I was very, very lucky. Just got in there. They had 3 bottles in the shop. Those 3 bottles are now in my cellar. And and this is
Just
one
in
of them.
case we get the
And
same wine.
they
next
had a
time.
lot of other Bunnamagoo, but it was all 19 like Blue Got, 20 and all that sort of stuff. So I was very
Yeah.
I must say, Bunnamagoo makes a nice wine. We often visit that estate, and it's very nice wine, I will say. So
Mhm.
I've not been to Mudge yet. Stephen, you need to turn off your notifications on your computer.
honestly, I've turned everything off, but it still keeps going.
I've not been to Mudge yet. I hear it's good food, good restaurants and so forth up there as well.
Yeah.
All right, here's mine. Allandale, 2015, Cap Sav, Winemaker's Reserve. And the nice thing about this one here, it's about 15.5% alcohol content. Very,
Whoa.
very strong. Probably close to more port than a wine. So we'll see. We might have to cut today's. We'll see how we go. All right.
Or I'll make it really interesting at the end.
But Mudgee, if you haven't been, you have to go. I think everyone goes to the Hunter Valley because it's closer. But Mudgee is a beautiful place to just visit. It used to be a gold mining town. And,
Yes.
they really try to get the wine going now. I think it's going to be a few more years, but anyone who's got a bit of money, invest in it. They will probably have a nice estate or a nice property close to those estates they'll be sought after, you know.
Funny thing is, I've got a customer, I've listed his house that's going to hit the market next week. And I said to him, where are you moving to? He goes, I'm moving to Mudgee. I've bought a house and land package, brand new home, single level, $680,000, totally complete. I said, oh, that's fantastic. You're going to have some, a really good selection of wines. He goes, I don't drink. I never have.
Oh.
I'm going, what? But okay, he's going to move to Mudgee. So all good. All good. But I think it's becoming a very popular place. So I think you're right, Thomas, about the land and the values up there. I think it'd be a good investment for, the next 10, 20 years.
And on your way, you drive past the one and only Hoang Valley. That's a nice place to stay for a night if you can.
If you can sell one of your children, you'll be able to afford it.
Well, you take the 3 weeks of the Parramatta trip, and you can have 2 nights there, Stephen.
But cheers, guys. Let's try this wine.
Cheers.
Cheers.
And thank you again, Stephen, for standing in for Cameron. He couldn't be here. He didn't apologize, but
that's good. That's good.
Very nice.
That's not bad, actually.
It is, isn't it? Well, mine is.
all right.
One thing I read up on Mudgee was I went to France many years ago. We went to the Beaujolais wise region near where Dijon, around Dijon.
Yeah.
And a lot of the wineries were saying that the more limestone in the ground, the better flavour out of the rocks that they get. And apparently Mudgee has a lot of limestone, a little bit way down, but they've got a lot of limestone. So that's why it's become a really good wine area.
Yeah.
How's your wine, mate? Be 10 years or 11 years old, Stephen?
Yeah, no, it tastes nice. It's
really
it's still good flavour, and I didn't mind it.
It's very, very rare that we can keep those kind of wines that long. Not for much as yet, but about the 5 and 7, it would have been really.
I've got another bottle that I found at home that was a 2002 from Mudgee. We bought it when we were out there in June. And
why didn't you bring that one?
Because truthfully, when I went to open it, bring it, Lisa goes, oh, that was a really nice bottle. Are you going to drink that at Wine and Wisdom on your own? So I went and found something else. But no, it was beautiful, considering it's a 20-year-old bottle. It was I think we bought like half a case of it. So
the thing, Di has these amazing clients that we've had for like 10 or 15 years. Tasman 18, Stephen.
Yes.
And every year they used to come over. They lived at Mudgee, and they used to bring Di this case. Is there such a thing as black Shiraz?
Yes.
Yeah. So they used to bring this amazing black Shiraz. So after going to 6 bottle shops, of which 2 I didn't even know existed and no one could help me, I suddenly remembered Di's got all that Shiraz from Mudgee that she gets every year. And she's like, Lou, we sold that last year. I haven't had any cases since last year. And I'm like, so that was my last ditch attempt to qualify. But
and I'd never heard of it until she showed it to me and said what a black Shiraz was. Like,
yeah. And she said, even if I did have them, I get them and they don't last very long. So you would have been out of the
We have to do a podcast from Mudgee, I reckon. I think that might be the next,
could Canberra away that week? I'll go to Mudgee.
We can fit 5 people on a podcast, mate.
It's not. We can fix that, Stephen. That's easy.
Easy. Oh,
I lie to him and I tell him that some kind of school wants to interview him for his son. All right. So what's new this week? What's new?
What is the news?
Apart from Optus getting hacked, and then I just found out that Medibank Private also got hacked as well just recently, and a lot of information's been released from that. So I'll tell you what, I was hacked this year, and can I tell you, it's the biggest pain in the ass to get everything back up and running. My God, what a nightmare. An absolute nightmare. Luckily, I didn't lose anything. They got into my credit card, but the bank reimbursed me on that. But geez,
we had one of our tenants was caught up in the Optus hack. Never ever dishonored on his rent ever, and suddenly he dishonored. So we thought something's up here. So we contacted him and said, "What's happened? Like you've never?" He said, "Oh, Optus hack, done him for 180 grand."
What do you mean 180 grand? They went into his account.
Yeah. Yep. $180,000.
Was he an older bloke?
No, he's probably in his 30s. He's well off. He works for one of the major energy companies up here. I think he's like an engineer or something. But he's quite well off. But he's not from Australia, so he's over here on contract. And yeah, it's just it's so close to home. You sort of think, oh yeah, whatever, one of those sort of things. But when we called him, we were shocked. We thought, Jesus, so it's far and wide.
With all the hacks, guys, one thing I learned a lot of I actually didn't realize it was on a lot of the websites is 2-factor authentication. Majority of them have it. If you haven't, if you're not using it on all your logins, get going. The other night I received a text message saying, here's your login to PayPal. Here's your code to get into PayPal. And I was sitting having dinner. So obviously someone was trying to get into my account through
absolutely.
my
And
email address.
We've had to, we've changed a lot of policies just with regards to, we don't obviously when a settlement's pending and you've got to transfer large sums of money out of the trust account and things, we don't accept bank details over email, because obviously it can be intercepted by anybody and they quickly change those details, and next minute that proceeds of settlement have gone into the wrong account instead of that. And so we always confirm them over the phone. We verify them and things like that, because you just don't know. You don't know who to trust now. It's a bit of a worry, but anyways.
Big business overseas. It's big business.
Sure is.
People getting scammed and hacked and all that sort of stuff. It's huge business.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Let's get into our subject now, if we can, please, because Stephen's falling asleep here.
No, he's a featherweight, remember?
You got big birds to fill in this week. I know, big dog's watching, and he's going, hold on.
Big shoes to fill.
Is this guy going to replace me? He can replace Thomas anytime because Thomas likes him, but can he replace me?
No, I can't. I can't keep replacing people. I'm not free every Thursday night, guys. So leave it at you four, and I'll step in if I'm needed.
Anyways, so topic this week, we're obviously real estate related. So we're going to talk about the true cost of bad decisions in real estate, because we see a lot of them, and a lot of people don't realize the true cost until it's too late. So okay. I think we can also.
I propose that we go through a few things. Right, first we'll look at it from the consumer point of view, and then secondly we will look at it from an employee's point of view, making bad decisions, and then we will look at it from an employer's point of view. Is that okay?
Yeah, yep. Absolutely, mate. Absolutely.
So let's start with the consumer point of view. What have you got,
Lou?
Let's start with me so that I give you a bit of direction here. I think that from a consumer point of view, one of the big mistakes that consumers do have is that they're being used by their human nature. And one of them is hope. Every time a seller sees an agent, they hope that they're going to get the highest price from that person. And hope as a human nature can sometimes just play you, because you're more willing to hear that lie than having to look at reality and decipher for yourself whether it's right or wrong.
Absolutely. I think exactly that, Thomas. And like, especially people in a vulnerable position, the hope's even blown up even more because, like, we've all been sellers before, and you get wooed by the price that they tell you. And it's usually a case of selling a dream and delivering a nightmare, a literal nightmare at the end of the day. Because we can all tell sellers whatever we want to tell them really at the end of the day. But the ethical ones will tell them, I'm here to tell you what you need to hear, not what you want to hear. Yeah.
A lot of consumers think bigger are better, more is better, and so forth. Whether it's a high sale price, a bigger team, more offices, more signboards, more sales, whatever it might be. Everybody thinks more is always better, but it's not. We use the old analogy: a 50-cent coin is a lot bigger than a $2 coin, right? But which one's worth more? And I think that's when it comes down to the seller's requirements. We only spoke about this recently, was to do their own investigations. Don't take the lip service or the shiny objects for how they appear, and really look into that person or the company that you're looking at employing. It is upon yourself. It is upon yourself to make those decisions. And there's many ways. And we mentioned that about just asking for the last couple of numbers of the people that they've served from the agents.
I wouldn't even go there, but let's wait for Stephen.
I think picking the cheapest agent, I mean, that's cost many a seller. I mean, they might save on picking the cheapest agent, but it doesn't save them when that agent undersells their property by $20,000 to $50,000 because they took the first offer that came in the door, and that's it. So even though Chris says people want bigger and better, a lot of sellers want the lowest and cheapest and nastiest fee, and basically want you to sell their property without anything, and then it costs them. And some of them I've had sellers come back to me later on who go, I'm really disappointed. I made the wrong decision. I picked someone else because they were cheaper than you, and then you just sold the property up the road for $30,000 or $40,000 more than mine. I know mine was better, so now I know the real cost to using that agent.
Well, I mean, the whole reason I'm in real estate today is because I did the typical vendor thing. I chose an agent to sell an investment property who was the cheapest, nastiest that I could find, because in my mind, it was, well, yous are all the same. I'll just go with the cheapest. But hence didn't sell, and I end up having to employ Darren Butcher as the agent, and then he offered me a job, and here I am today. But it's the saying we have now: cheap ain't good and good ain't cheap. And that's the reality. That applies with everything. There's a reason why some TVs are $1,000 and other TVs are $10,000, because there's a difference. They might look the same and do the same, but there's obviously a difference that they provide. But yeah, I think that's a big one, a very big one. Choosing an agent based on what they cost you as opposed to what they bring you is a huge, big no-no.
Yeah, but I just want to stop the three of you guys there, because that doesn't exist. What you guys talking about doesn't exist. It is not possible to know who's the cheapest agent before you sign on the contract. So most of these sellers are already making a mistake because they can't even calculate. I mean, for example, I cost you 4%. Louise costs you 2%. How the hell do you know that I'm the most expensive one?
Yeah, because you have.
So the only way that you can make the decision is by telling yourself, this is the price I'm going to end up with. I'm going to end up with $1 million. Yes, if you know the price you're going to have on that signed contract, you now know who's the cheap and who's the most expensive agent. But until you get that, how do you know? It would be like saying, I know who's the best surgeon to operate on my kid's cancer, right? Because he's only 20,000, the other guy is 100,000. I'll go with the 120,000 because he's the cheapest. First of all, it's funny that when it comes to your kid's cancer, you're a bit more serious and you go, no, it's not about money. I just want my kid to be alive. So you do a bit more research. But you never get to the outcome to say, well, 20,000 is better than 100. But they do that with a real estate agent. And to me, it's crazy. I look at families sometimes who spend 5-6 years to save for the deposit. And they just blow it by thinking that, hold on, 3 or 2 is cheaper than 4. Yeah. So I think that the discussion is, yes, it maybe your fee is not the lowest, but I'm sorry, you can't say that your fee is not the cheapest.
Yeah, and you're so right, Thomas. It's just trying to get people to understand that at the beginning, you know. It's like they're looking at and as agents, we all work for free. We don't get paid up front. We've got to do the job, and if we don't do the job, we don't get paid. You
I
know,
said that line
unless,
today to a
unless you're
customer.
a bad one. But that's the reality. Like, you're making a decision of your 5 or 6 years of saving for your deposit. You know, and it's like, do you want to save $1,000 up front or 50 grand at the end? Because that's the difference between a good agent and a bad agent. One's going to be cheaper at the beginning, but it's going to cost you a hell of a lot more at the end. You know, but it's, yeah, you're so right. But it's, how do we get owners to understand that? Because human nature is, we go, you're all the same, I'll choose the cheapest.
No. One other thing that I would advise our agents to do is sit down with them and tell them, I give you $10,000 if they can demonstrate that the 4 agent is more expensive.
Yeah.
I give you $10,000. Now here's the check, do it. But if you can't demonstrate it, you have to pick me. Deal?
Yeah.
But the person who wants it for 0.5% is probably not going to. Well, actually, they might take the $10,000 just on a test, because that money would talk to the person who wants to pay 0.5%. You know?
No. I said demonstrate. I didn't say do that, because yes, sure, there will be agents who will be silly, but demonstrate it. Show me on paper how it is.
Yeah. It's a big thing.
But so how do they? Let's go back to hope, for example. Those people with hope, how do they? I know that you said earlier, Chris, they should really ask for 2 numbers to call. Yeah, I disagree with that. I think that if you ask an agent for 2 numbers, you're gonna get the best 2. The sellers should go out there and knock on the signs.
That's it.
Right. Yeah. That's because at least you know you've got full control of which sign you're knocking on, and you got full objectivity.
Yeah.
Everything's available on real estate domain, so there's no secrets on the internet today. There's no secrets.
Yeah.
Ask Optus. So there's easy. It's easy enough for them to find the addresses of the places that that agent is just.
Yeah.
So you're spot on. You're spot on. Absolutely.
And against hope, if people were saying to me, all right, it's nice for the guy to say hope, but how do I safeguard it? I wish sellers could really ask themselves as they go through the interviewing of the agent, am I buying hope right now? Because if you can answer that question, what you're doing is that you're bringing some sense of awareness to the moment to see whether you're doing this for the wrong reason. Because you're selling your home, it won't be on hope of getting the highest price. It is that certainty you're going to get the highest price. And when you're asking yourself, am I buying hope? Am I hoping right now? Then that allows you to reset your thinking.
Yeah. Yep.
With hope, I think if people just, and we don't like, we use the word, you know, people give us the word, we want to think about it, but if they just do their research before they start interviewing agents, I think that's probably a very good tool. So when they're interviewing, they might pick, instead of interviewing 5 or 6, instead of getting lip service, you're educating yourself already to who you feel may be the best person to sit with, even before, you know, they're in your lounge room or your dining room table, delivering to you what they can do.
But like you said, everything's available on the internet. They can go and look at everything that's sold in their suburb on some real estate website somewhere and see what their property should sell for. But yet someone comes in and promises them $100,000 more and they go, yeah, let's take it. You know, like we'll go with that person. I mean, you know, they just told us the biggest story, but it could happen. And that's where your hope comes back, you know.
It does.
But having said that, we're one of the highest country of gamblers where people go and put money on 1 horse out of 12 to win 15. And 15. Well, yeah, see, I tell you,
or even maybe more.
But, you know, they go and put a bet on the hope that the horse that they just bet on might win.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, you can't go for a trifecta like with real estate agents where they just pick 3 and hope that one of them's going to win. Like, you know, but we're from a country that is one of the highest rates of gambling. So the sad part is it's okay to gamble $5, $10, $100 on a horse, but when you're selling $1 million property and you're gambling on the wrong agent, that's the bad decision that can come.
Yeah, if you know where to stop on the horse, even at the roulette, if you know where to stop, you can look at the $100 that you spend as entertainment. right? So, but I find I'm dumbfounded that people who have spent 4 years to sacrifice their life, not going on to the best holiday, not going out there to dine in a nice restaurant, when it comes to selling their house, would just take decision based on the fact that they like the person, for example. You know, that would be like me picking the surgeon for my daughter because I like it. It doesn't make sense. We laugh, but we do that with $40,000-$50,000 of our savings.
Exactly. It's
Another
great.
thing from the consumer point of view for me is dodgy agents.
Oh, and aren't there some? Aren't there some? Some of the things I've seen lately is just, mind blowing. But we all know they exist and whatever. And like we were talking briefly on a situation that you guys had, Thomas, last week.
Yeah.
I really have not heard something so bad, to be honest. But that's just one of many stories, I'm sure. But and I think the market that we're sort of going into, it's going to bring the best and worst out in people, and we're probably only going to be seeing more and more of it, unfortunately. So, but my thing is, if it's too good to be true, it probably, if it smells like a rat and looks like a rat, it's probably a rat. And unfortunately, again, we work in an industry where we come across people, we're dealing with their biggest assets, and a lot of the time, well, maybe not a lot of the time, but some of the time they're in very vulnerable positions, whether it's been a deceased estate or a marriage breakdown, or people have lost their jobs and, interest rates are going up. So we're dealing with people's biggest assets in vulnerable times. So the emotion is high, and it's a very easy, if you're a bad person, it's a very easy sort of way to get away with a lot.
Take advantage of people at the wrong time.
What are some of the examples, though, for the people watching, that a dodgy agent can cost a seller, like make a seller make a bad decision? I mean, how do you determine a dodgy agent? Because, I mean, some of the dodgy agents actually look the part and can be the part, but when the push comes to shove, they do the wrong things. How's a seller going to know what to be aware of?
Well,
I think the first one is, if you're interviewing 3, 4, 5 agents and one's come above and then he's 50 or 100 grand more than everyone else, hang on. If 4 intelligent people are saying it's this price and then we've got one cowboy, how about you look into it a little bit more? I think the first one would be, a price range that's way above what everyone else's expectation.
The other thing is too, we're real estate agents. We're not builders. We're not carpenters. We're not plumbers. We're not electricians. We're not lawyers. We're not, if they start giving all this advice and start offering all these other services in other areas, you got to start to wonder, well, hang on, what's the bigger picture here? If they start to go out of their lane and try and do all these other things, you got to start to wonder, what are they really in it for? Are they in it for my best interest and getting me the highest price, or are they in it to look after all their mates and possibly their own little side hustle that they've got? I don't know.
And I think that's one of the ones that I would have picked, is the agents. Number of times I've had to make a seller aware in our area that the person buying their property is actually their agent. And they haven't disclosed it. They haven't provided any of the required sections. The seller didn't know, or they find, it's their daughter buying it, or their brother buying it, or their development company buying it, and no advice to the seller whatsoever, haven't followed any of the regulations. But, 9 out of 10 sellers, A, don't know the legislation that the agents have to abide by, but B, go, oh, well, I mean, they told me it's the best price I was going to get. I guess I'm happy with it, and move on, and don't want to go and take the agent to task for misleading and deceptive conduct. So, and that's, I say, I've seen a lot of that over the years. With agents who just, suddenly you see the surname who bought the property and think, yep, I knew I was right,
Yeah, that's right. Well, we've seen a bit of that actually. Not in this town, but like where our other office is in Foster, and there's a bit of that going on where, some agents have bought properties, but they've bought them off market, and and you hear the prices and you just think, did they get a valuation at least or something? But in many cases, no, it was just this is what it's worth, and I'm the agent, that's what I'm telling you, so that's what I'm paying you. And again, vulnerable people in vulnerable positions, if it's what they want to hear, then that's.
But I don't know whether it is vulnerability, Louise. An owner wants $1 million. His house is only worth 800. He will listen to an agent. And I know in Killarneyville, we have an agent in the neighborhood who does that. So he will listen to an agent who would say, no, mate, I've got a building company of mine. I'll get them to come over. We'll pretend to do some kind of work for you so that I can give you $200,000 for my work. It only costs you 20, but we'll give you a $200,000 invoice and you can actually claim it back. Now that'll make up for the difference. So there are people, but it's not just vulnerability. I think it's greed. Because these sellers are greedy, they make it easy for those vultures to go out there and lie about it. I think that the Department of Fair Trading ought to really wake up. Instead of going around and having a look at like who hasn't got their license on the window, just have a look at the licensee you have in town. You know, what company do they have on top of that? Are they doing shonky things? Go and ask for clients. Maybe you should knock on some of those sites and have a look. You know, I think it does really bad name for the rest of the agents. I mean, in the neighborhood where the Killarneyville office is, there's amazingly good teams, but there's constantly these kind of hooligans that go around and lie and cheat, and they don't take advantage of people. They just take advantage of human nature, greed in sellers.
Yeah. No, you're 100% right. In some situations, like the couple of situations that I've heard of, it has been people that, lost their job or whatever, and so they are in positions where they need a quick sale, and so they just believe anything they hear. But it's the same with I don't know what your guys' take is on agents who provide building and pest reports when they're selling. Like I've never been a fan of that. And I always say, look, why we get this? Why don't you provide building and pest reports? And my answer always is, well, how do you know it's not my best mate that's doing them? It's
so
quite
at the moment, so there's ways around that now, which are fantastic systems. There's companies like I'm not going to name it, but there's companies out there, pest and building companies. They'll go and do the report for free, and they actually don't charge the owner or the agent, and it's completely independent. And then they make that report available online, and everyone who wants a report pays for it. So they might sell 1 or 2 reports, or they might sell none. They take that risk, but they're still held accountable for that report being right. But the owner doesn't pay them, or the agent doesn't pay them. They're totally independent. So you've got a very good independent report being done. So there are the possibility of that happening, Lou. I'm finding more now in the area that I've come into that it's a lot more frequent than it was previously.
But I think that's at least that's like I can't think of the word, but it's not joined in any way. I think Lou's talking more about the agents.
They're independent of each other, absolutely.
I mean, we're very reluctant these days to even recommend a pest and building inspector to someone, and some of the local conveyancers are now doing the same thing, going, "No, sorry, go look someone up yourself, because we've been hauled over the coals or sued because something went wrong with a report, and because we recommended you, now we're liable for it as well." You're on your own. And of course, then you do recommend someone and something bad happens, and then they look back at us. So I think we've got to be very careful on that. I think
absolutely
the consumer has to, there's plenty of stuff on Google. Go Google who you're going to choose,
I don't know how I heard it.
But I still believe that we should really be out there to help the consumer. I have an office in Killarneyville, and I'm gonna make sure that this thing here is gonna go around our area, because anyone from Tambiyambi to Killarneyville, if you have experienced agents who have done the shonky things, just call me and pass it on to me at Wisebury in Killarneyville. We will pass it on to the Department of Fair Trading. I think that would be something good. If it's not for yourself, at least you're helping clean up for your neighbor.
That's it.
Well, you're protecting your neighbors, your kids, like the next round of people.
Because I think exactly like what you said, Thomas. Unfortunately, we get tarred with the same brush, a lot like car salespeople. Apparently they're there, and the worst of society is here, and we're about there. So unfortunately, we all get tarred with that same brush. So, but the reality is, we're very, very different at the end of the day. So Anyway, what
I've
else?
heard story for buyers as well. I've heard story of shonky agents manipulating contracts and so forth to make the property look good, like removing sewer diagrams. Removing a sewer from a diagram, scanning it, then putting it back in the contract and so forth.
Are you serious?
Yeah, absolutely. To just to fool the buyer into saying it's clear block, do what you want and so forth. And yeah, absolutely. So you've got to be very, as a buyer, you've got to be on your toes as well to make sure that, you know, everything's, on the up and up. If you know, as you said before, Lou, if you've got that gut feel, if you've got an intuition, you know, something's not right here, and that goes for sellers too. Buying hope, but even with buying hope, I still think there's that gut feel, that intuition that's like, you know what, something's not 100% here. I'm not 100% comfortable.
Yeah.
Look into it a little bit more.
For buyers, I think not inspecting the property they're buying is still a bad decision.
Yes.
You know, it's easier to buy a property offline or get coaxed into, you haven't got time to come and have a look at it, just buy it, you'll be right. But, you know, I've heard stories of people who found out the property they bought only had 2 bedrooms because they thought they were buying a 3-bedroom. They realised that the property backed onto power lines, which fortunately no pictures were taken by the agent of the power lines in the shots. But of course, when they turned up on settlement day, so, you know, you want to avoid a bad decision in real estate, go look at the property you're buying. It's not like it's a $5 bet at the TAB. It's a, you know, $1 million odd purchase. Go and have a look at it. I mean, we'd all climb in a car before we bought it. So go climb in the house you want to buy.
Yeah.
Good point.
I think one of the signs for the consumer when you're interviewing the agent is have a look. If an agent is very quick at putting his competition down, that's exactly what he's going to do behind your back.
Yes.
Right. So if I was a seller, that will be the first thing for me to look at. I'm having a discussion. I will bring up a name and I will watch very carefully at how he handles that.
Absolutely. We that's just a life principle about being a good person, isn't it? It's that saying, what Susie says of Sally says more of Susie than Sally, you know, and that's one thing we teach I know it's tongue twister, Chris, don't worry.
That's Susie, mate.
That's Susie.
Always a Susie somewhere.
But it's you know, but basically what it's saying, you know, exactly that, and that's one thing we teach the staff as well. And it's like one of the interview principles as well. It's like how do they treat their boss on the way out is how they're going to treat you on the way out. So we always ask that same question, but you know, it's so true. And how many times, like I've almost felt like I've been set up and I've walked into a listing appointment and, you know, they try and throw the bait at me as, you know, this person, that person, and he said that about you. And I say, well, I don't know that person personally, so I have nothing to say, unfortunately. If that's what you're after, I've got nothing. But then I get the listing, you know, and, you know, so it does happen, and it happens. Some people think discrediting another person is going to lift them up. It just, in a smart person's mind, it just puts them down.
Yeah.
So let's recap here so that we can move on to the next chapter. I think that a home seller needs to really be prepared.
Yeah.
Right, rather than go on to the fact that he liked the agent, he received the gift from the agent, and he saw signage. Be prepared, do your own research. Just as much as before you choose a surgeon, do your own research.
That's it.
Make sure that while you are in the presentation, be aware of what is driving you. Is the drive the hope? Are you getting excited because they're telling you something that is fulfilling your hope? And I think that it is very important to probably go out there and knock on a few signs of the agent you think.
100%. And just with the hope thing, I was just thinking about it right then. Ask yourself, without hearing the price, have you still got the hope? Because I think the hope thing comes in when they've told a ridiculous price. It's unrealistic. If you feel good up until that point, it's probably a good decision. But if you're feeling good just because of the price they've told you, it's probably the bad decision.
Yeah. And on Stephen's fees, don't believe the fees.
Yeah.
As you knock on the door, ask the sellers, or are you happy so far with the price that you are getting or the offers you're getting? Because that will tell you whether they baited you with a low fee right? So that you totally mesmerized by that and forget about what you're going to end up with.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, the market we've been in, it's like swimming in a when the tide's in. Now the tide's going out, we're going to be see who's been swimming naked. People are going to be caught out, I think, in the market we're coming into. They need to be stepped out and step
as
up.
I'm representing Cam here, we just hope it's not you, Chris, because I don't think anyone would like to see you naked.
I don't want to put you all to shame, that's why.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah.
Okay, so let's have a look at the second group now. Let's imagine now you're an employee. What would be some of the bad decisions that you could make that would cost you in the end?
An employee.
Jumping into a job for the sake of changing careers straight away without, again, doing your research on the company. You're going to work for a salesperson. They're going to sell you the role. So you, as a new employee into that position, if you're changing careers, you need to do your research on that company. It's simple. Or they're going to sell you the shiny thing.
I think the real one with that, Chris, is just believing that the grass is going to be greener. I mean, real estate is hard work. It doesn't matter whether it's in ABC real estate or XYZ real estate. It's still going to take hard work to achieve. And at the moment in our industry, we've talked about it before, there's a lot of people out there offering big, unbelievable salaries. And you know what? It's easy to think the grass is going to be greener, but no one, nothing in life is free. We know examples of people who have moved from one agency to another and they're not even there anymore 2 months later because they didn't cut what they needed to do, and they're straight out the door. And you know what? It looked great before you cross the line, and there's no coming back once you've crossed that line. So I just think you've got to think, if you've got a personality for a salesperson, if you've got a personality clash with your leader, different story. But if you're purely leaving because there's big money on offer, stay where you are and just go to work.
Well, Stephen, the business owner, he's also a businessman. He's not going to put out a high salary for nothing, right? If he doesn't see a return, he's going to just flick it. I've been training offices for over 30 years, and I can tell you, every owner sit down and do the same thing. If I pay someone little, my patience is long. If I pay someone a lot, my patience is short. It's always been the same everywhere.
Yeah.
I like that. I never heard that one before. I like that.
Yeah. But it is
about patience today, Thomas.
But it's like what Stephen said, and what we're going back to, any agent can tell you any price for your house and you can get wooed. Any potential employee can tell you any salary really at the end of the day. But the grass might look greener, but it is sure as shit just as hard to mow. That's the reason.
It's built on a septic tank. That's why it's greener.
That is true, and that's what I say at the office as well. But the thing is, real estate's not easy. A lot of people think real estate is easy, but if it was, why isn't everybody doing it? Because it's the most uncapped salary in the world, really, industry where you can earn, your income is dependent upon how hard you work, not by how many letters you've got after your name, and so but it's not easy. It's hard work, and that's the thing. A lot of people, and especially now since COVID, a lot of people are feeling a little bit more entitled, want a little bit more flexibility, and everybody wants more money, but it's, it really, it's you at the end of the day that might look good. But like Stephen said, they go because of the carrot, but then 1 month, 2 months later, they're no longer there. And the worst part is they've burnt their bridge on the way out. There's no going back. And so if all that person has done is take you from the competition, they no longer have to deal with you. Well, they've really got nothing to lose. So I think, it's a big problem. I think we're seeing it a lot. I've heard a lot of stories of a lot of big figures. But again, if it sounds too good to be true, it's probably a good example,
Lou, is I remember you talked about it a few weeks ago, how one of the agents in your area actually had their personal assistant contact you and said that you've been headhunted by that agency and they'd like to come work for you. And you said, do you know who I am? And they go, yeah, you're a salesperson over at Wiseberry, and we just think you'd be a good asset to our team. And Louise goes, well, maybe you should do a bit more research. I'm actually licensing in charge and director of the agency. So you haven't done your research. You don't know. But this is the point. They're just out there, you know, offering anyone, sorry, Lou, I didn't mean that, but, you know, no research, offer anyone a job.
That's okay.
Because they don't care, you know.
No,
So what Stephen's trying to say, Lou, is start behaving like a leader because nobody knows.
okay, fair enough. No, but the best part about that, I was actually on group inspection with my whole team. So I had my whole team in the car with me, and they know if my phone rings and I'm in the car, I have nothing to hide. I answer it. I don't care who it is. You know, I'll take the call. And it was just so perfect because it was so innocent. The person that was headhunting me clearly had well, not headhunting me, but, you know, but had no idea. And my whole team were like, oh my God, does that actually happen? It's like,
how did you do at the interview anyway, Lou?
Hey?
How did you do at the interview?
Didn't get it.
I didn't go any well. I didn't go very well, obviously. I'm still here. So. No, I gave him
Isn't Cam at an interview today? Isn't Cam at an interview? Like,
no, I gave him a good old serve, Chris, and I told him to get their bloody facts right and never call me again. That's what I did.
oh, that's funny.
That's funny.
And it just shows, though, I think it's a good example, and our team were very noticing of it, that, you know, we say the grass isn't greener, but you know what? Offers out there for jobs don't mean anything when they just don't even know who they're offering it to. So
exactly.
You've got to be careful.
But the other thing, I think we're focusing on people that are in real estate potentially getting poached or what.
That was just
yep. The other one, I think also for new people wanting to get into real estate, that it doesn't matter your age. If you want to get into real estate, I think the important thing is have the balls to ask questions to the person interviewing you.
Yeah.
Ask them, you know, what support, what training, how do I achieve, you know, how do you like feedback? How will you give feedback? You know, what is my job progression and so forth. And so have the guts to ask those questions. If you're going to change careers, you want to make sure your first choice is the right choice.
Yeah.
You don't want to be jumping from real estate to real estate, because unfortunately we are in an industry that's very transient.
Mm.
And I think I was told a stat when I started real estate 14 years ago. I know that's nothing on you, Stephen. You've been in real estate since Jesus played fullback in Jerusalem. I think you sold the first caveman his cave. But
Stephen is the only species that survived the dinosaurs' destruction.
So what I was getting at is ask those questions, and you want to make sure you're getting into the right team at the right time, because the stat was 1 in 5 people within the first 12 months will be there after that. The other 4 will leave real estate, 1 in 5. So only 1 in 5 will last 12 months. Only 1 in 5 of them will last 10 years.
Yeah.
So one in 25 will be in real estate after 10 years. So I think the issue is make sure you're asking the questions, picking the right employer, and work hard. And work hard. But that's a different thing. But you've got to make the right decision from the onset, picking the best.
Well, there's only a few chances, Chris, too. I mean, if you leave one agent, you can probably go to a second agent. If you leave that agent, you can probably go to a third agent. But how many people do we know who's gone to a fourth agent, unless your name's Cheryl? But, there's really not that many people, I mean, sometimes people are lucky to go to more, but you just don't have that opportunity. And it's like, pick right, because if you don't pick the first time, you might have a second or third chance, but that's it.
Yep.
Because, very rarely will we hire someone who's been round 3 or 4 agents unless they've got a really good reason and can show us their awesome commission statements and track record, which they usually can't, which is why we have no one who's been around the traps like that.
But I think also when you are starting out, if you've not been in real estate, don't be discouraged by the person that tells you you're not old enough and you don't have enough experience. One of our people now that we've got who's absolutely killing it was told, you're too young. At best, I'll hire you as an assistant to my paping pushing person over there who's not even real estate related. And then after a few years, you might be like, I'll put you in sales. Well, we hired that person like that, and that person's in sales and absolutely killing it. So don't be discouraged by somebody who can't see the flower in the person, you
Are you
know.
talking about Belle?
I am talking about Belle.
Then mention Belle, because you know
Well,
we got a problem. We can't even mention the people who are doing it wrong, and then we can't if we can't even then congratulate the people who are doing good.
yeah, well, I was going to say Belle, but I was thinking I didn't want to go down the track of saying the agent who
Is that
told
Bill
told
the
me to come
agency
back.
or Bill the young lady who you're talking
But
about?
also that got missed out on her.
Sorry? What was that? Did you just ask me who missed out on her?
I said also national that missed out on her.
No, no. I'm Susie. I'm not going to say anything about Sally. But,
I think, though, another good one for the true cost of bad decisions as a salesperson or as an employee in real estate, your marriage or your relationship.
yes.
True one, because, I mean, real estate does have a high divorce rate. One, because some people throw themselves too deep into the industry and forget they've got a family. Or two, they don't succeed at what they do and their partner uses as an excuse to dump them and move on to something better. So, I mean, we do have a high divorce rate in real estate, and I think it's something that you make the wrong decision, and your wrong decision could be to not work and to just hide yourself under the radar and live on the basic wage, and it could cost you. I mean, it probably cost you self-respect. It could cost you your relationship, probably cost you your job, but plenty of costs out there to making those decisions.
Yeah.
But mate, if I was to go in real estate and work long hours, meaning I'm sacrificing family time and be at work, and I'm not bringing home the bacon, my wife should divorce me for sure, because really what I'm saying to her is I'm taking time away from you that I love the most and return nothing. What it means is that you equal nothing.
We agree, but you know, real estate in New South Wales, 80% of salespeople live on the base wage.
Yeah.
I mean, you know,
$250,000 a year.
$50,000.
Probably will be soon.
That's that other agent near you that's offering that. No.
No,
You
but
renovate your house for it as well.
You have to skip breakfast. I mean, yeah, but look, things are going up in price. I mean, what is a salad now? $9 or something.
That's right. Breakfast included in my room. I'm fine. So,
You know?
A salad. Give me a $9 salad. Jeez.
You're looking at some of the vegetable these days. There's I mean, it's good that I don't like vegetable because now I've got a very good exclusive with my wife. I'm looking at how much it is.
I look at vegetables and I go, that's my food's food.
So is there any other employees' mistake? I mean, what are they?
I think listening, when you're working in an office, if you're new in an office or working in an office, listening to wrong advice and getting caught up in the sort of bad culture within an office.
Yeah,
I think if you're in an office and you're an employee, you dance to your own tune. You just get your head down, ass up, and just work and grind and do what you need to do. When I started real estate, I had 3 other people in my office saying to me, you don't have to do those hours, you don't have to work what you're working, you know, and blah, 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 blah. I was coming in my day off because I come from an industry where I was working 6 days anyway. And I did the grind and I pushed and I worked. And there's other people saying, oh, you don't have to do that, you don't have to do that. But they didn't have what I had within 6 months. I was outperforming them. A new bloke in real estate. These guys have been in there for years because I didn't listen to their small-minded thinking, their small-minded suggestions. Yeah. I had an idea on what I wanted to do and I was going to meet that target and I drove to get it. So I think that's one of the worst things that a new employee coming into the office, you've got your job, grind. If the culture is not that, ignore it, just work.
But I think that's a good lesson though. What you said is, you know, look at who you're getting your advice from. You know, if you earn, you know, I remember when I started in real estate, I mean, the wage is about 1/3 of what it is now. And I remember someone standing by the
$100,000 a year.
what's that?
It was 100 grand a year.
Oh yeah, yeah. And, I think it was like 20, but anyway. And I remember a guy standing at the photocopier giving me some advice, and I said, "Oh, and so how much did you gross last year?" And he goes, "Oh, $25,000." Said, "Dude, I didn't come here to earn any less than 100. When you reach that, I'm happy to take your advice." And I moved on. And of course, he went and he left 3 weeks later, but he went and told everyone else that that's what I was gunning for. And I achieved it in my first year in real estate back in 1990 in sales. But it was
in 1880, you meant.
This is the first podcast Thomas has got someone that's older than him. So that's why you're confident, right?
Even if he's got to make up my age to be older, but that's okay. But, and that's where you've got to listen, I think, for anything. Doesn't matter whether you're a property manager, whether you're customer care, listen to who you're taking your advice from, because if they're not a performer, an achiever and a winner, they're just there to drag you down at the coffee machine to make themselves look better. So I think listening to the wrong people.
Yeah.
Here's another mistake for me to share. Please do not have social media on your work time. And not think that social media is going to bring you more listings. So I think that if anything, if you can't prospect, if you can't just get yourself in front of people, you're not going to be successful. So don't think that you're going to come into real estate and that a few photos on Instagram is going to do it. Even the people who are working Instagram, they're paying a fortune before the Instagram is paying off. So don't even think that by sitting there, watching a few nice likes and comments, I mean, I don't know whether they still exist, on Facebook and Instagram, that you're going to be really having a successful career. If you're going to be in real estate, tell your family, you will not see me at Sundays, birthday parties for many years to come, because I am working for an income that is going to be provided to you guys after the birthday parties.
Yeah, definitely. I think on that one as well, I think social media can work really good, but it's not the only thing. I think, as you said, Thomas, you still got to be in front of people and doing the hard yards, so to speak. You can't expect social media to be your magic pill. If you work it really well, it can pay off. But the other one that just came to mind whilst we were talking, for a new person, I think one of the biggest mistakes that they can make and will cost them dearly is not asking for help. They've got so many people around them that can help and give such great advice. And again, don't take it from anybody who's doing worse than you, but take it from people who have stood the test of time and, you trust and can see that they've made something of themselves. But I see too many new recruits fear making mistakes and fear asking for help because they don't want to annoy you. And I'm so constantly apologizing. I'm so sorry to ring you. I'm so sorry to... I would rather you ring me 100 times and get it right than go out on a whim and make it wrong, and then I've got to spend 100 hours fixing it. Just ask, because the quicker... Pardon?
NGE,
yeah. But it is, and hence your great books helping a lot of people in that regard. But it's so... I don't think it's new people. I think everybody struggles a little bit with asking for help. Doesn't matter how long you've been in real estate. There's ego involved and all the rest of it. But how much easier would life be if people just actually, instead of fearing making a mistake, just actually said, I'm new and I don't get it, or I don't understand, this is what I'm struggling with, and ask for that help? Wouldn't life just be so much easier?
Yeah, I have to say, I don't comprehend what you just said, because I am the number one kind of guy to ask questions. I have no problem with asking questions, because to fulfill the dream and desires of myself and my family is more important than the questions I would be asking. Yeah. I would ask questions. If you were to see people in my entire life, I think even when I was studying English, it was thousands of questions. When I was in real estate, thousands of questions. If I had a mentor, thousands of phone calls. The guy would have to hang up. My first mentor, he was a Black American guy, 2 meters tall. He would get calls from me at any time of the day. But you know why? Because I'm thinking, hold on. If I have a source of knowledge, a source of income for me, why would I go in with my bucket and get the gold from that source? Why would I try to look for a gold mine and dig? I called him, and do you know what he said to me one day? He said to me, Thomas, you're the best student I ever had. I cannot believe how much of a sponge you are. You grab stuff and I see you apply the afternoon. And by the way, I won't tell too many people, I was his #1 performer. Just to be a clue between phone calls, income, goals, dreams. And I think that the people who don't do that are the people who are so imprisoned by their ego that they will just die poor. I truly believe that they will die poor. So either if you're an employee now, either you just go for 18 months of asking and set yourself a goal, 1,000 questions. If you don't get 1,000 questions by the end of the 18 months, you will not make it, my guarantee.
100%, because the hours that I've spent trying to fix things where people could have just asked a question and it could have been so easy. And just on that, Thomas, it's probably a little bit off the topic here, but agents going broke trying to look rich, it's all about looking the part.
But it's not agents, it's people.
Yeah.
A number of people I know who tried to keep up with everyone else and now they have nothing and probably not even together anymore because they could not do it. Like,
I was training some people yesterday. We were about 16 people in the room. And Richard Martinezzi was there, and he still remembers me saying to him, "Man, you're one of those guys that actually drown, and I'm more worried about how to drown nicely than help."
I knew you were going to say that. But how often do we see that? And it's like a bit of a topic or a discussion that I had with a couple of people in the team the other day. They're relatively new, and they're chasing these ginormous, big development sites. And this, I said, that's years of work and years of training and years of understanding, and not to mention a year in the council and a year. I said, little fish are sweet. I said, just go chase the little fish. And I don't mean like the nothing, but you go the bread and butter stock or that stuff is for like when you're like Bruce's age and you've got that time to spend months and hours and years on trying to get it to fruition. But don't go broke trying to look rich, because that's all you're doing it for, And it's like people you see, I've been into houses, they drive a nice car, they have a beautiful home, and you go inside to listen, they're sitting on milk crates, and you're like, what's going on here, But that's the reality. Some people, it's all about the facade or the perception, what they get from others. But how many agents do we see start out and it's all about the image, but they're broke morally and ethically and value-wise, you know what I mean?
Financially and also family. I've seen. I was speaking to a leader yesterday who said that she divorced for a second time, but this woman here started in real estate. Everything's hunky-dory, and she latched onto a developer. Thought that he was like, wow, that he had something 250,000 properties to give her. Anyway, he invited her back to his bed. Whatever happened in the bedroom, I don't know, but she lost her marriage, right? Then when she turned to the guy, he said, "I don't want you." And she lost her job, and that's it. The rest is story. People who are chasing the dream and think, this is what I say to people who just latch onto a developer. You think that the developer is stupid enough to go with a newie? You think that the developer hasn't got 2,000 people in his ears?
Yes. Exactly.
So I'm cool if you can develop the relationship into the best out of the 2,000. Till then, you still need bread and butter to survive.
Exactly my point.
Absolutely.
So I think another one probably for bad decisions is your health. I mean, if you don't look after yourself when you're a real estate agent, it doesn't matter what role you have, whether it's the stress you take home from property management, the anxiety you carry because you really hate being on reception, or, the fact that you eat out of the garbage bin at the office, it's going to affect your health, so you really need to be fit, be smart. You are what you eat, as Louise always says. Watch, because, plenty of fat walking real estate agents around town that are heart attacks waiting to happen. Oh, sorry, Chris.
Yeah, there's a saying that I heard. It's you with decisions, you pay for it before or you pay for it after.
Yeah.
You still pay for it.
And nothing tastes as good as skinny feels, just so you know.
I'm sorry. A Big Mac is almost as good, I have to say. Like, or a Grand Angus meal. Oh my God.
Yeah. But I think on the health thing, sorry, Thomas, you go.
I'm only looking forward to the day that I'm dead and the 6 guys that are carrying me, I will have the final, like 300 kilos, man. What do you feel about that?
We're using a stroller, mate. We're using one of those, the wheelie things, right? So
yeah.
No one's carrying your fat ass, I'll tell you.
But on a serious note, though, with the health, like we all know, like I think the health thing is pretty serious. Like if you let yourself get too involved and emotionally involved a lot of the time, I think the mental health of it sometimes can be, I find a lot of the time we deal with a lot of people's biggest assets, dreams, whatever. We can take all that on board sometimes, and I think it's a lot like you got to debrief sometimes, and you've also got to not carry that personally. You've also got to, I've seen a lot of people just walk out because they lost a listing, because they can't fathom or carry that hurt or that rejection. Yeah. It's a lot like protecting your health. It's not about just what we eat. It's about our mental health and physical health as well. I think it's, we wear a lot of hats as agents. Whilst we are just agents, we sometimes can wear 10 different hats, and because we're involved in the big emotional decisions, it's hard to get sucked into, but it's also hard to not take a lot of things personally. We deal with a lot of rejection as well, so that's a big thing.
When it comes to the rejection side of things and losing listings, I think good agents need to take that loss on, and they can't, I believe they can't have it like water off a duck's back. I don't believe they got to take that, but they've got to be able to use it as fuel to push forward to the next one, and they can't wallow in their crap.
No, that's right.
If you lose a listing, all right, go and feel sorry for yourself 5 minutes, go for a walk, make a phone call, and then move forward.
You've got to get back on the horse. That's exactly it, Chris. You've got to have thick skin. But if you really badly suffer from the NGA that Thomas talks about, I tell you what, because in the early years, it was hard for me. I felt, and probably being a mum and a woman, I took on everything like it was my problem. And if I lost a listing, I was the worst person in the world and I'm a failure. And like, it's hard. Like, you've got to be mentally strong, and that's the beauty of, when you sort of are aware of these things that drive us, you get to be mentally strong, and you realize, it's just a bad day, not a bad life. You just get on with it.
But having said that, the good agents still care. I mean, I can tell you, I don't live the life of maybe stress that I would have years ago. But if one of my sellers is hurting, I'm hurting until I can get them to the place. If one of my team's hurting, I'm hurting just as much. I mean, one of our team hasn't been very well the last week or so, and in many a night I've woken up worrying about that person, because it's just the nature of, you've got to look after your team, you've got to look after your family. So you never.
So when you wake up in the middle of the night worrying about that person, like Lisa helps you unstress and go back to sleep?
Lisa's sound asleep, don't you worry. There's no waking Lisa up when she goes to sleep. So good try on that one. So listen, there's no camp. So I have to try and be a bit of a camp. You're too quiet, man. One of my last one is for salespeople is one of the mistakes you make when you join a team is not to see a long-term future. If you look at a team and you see that, they have no one really flying and setting up their own show and be able to do some things, and don't join them, because there is no long-term plan for you but just being a salesperson. I think that you need to really look at a leader who is going to help you soar with the eagles, not keep you flying with the pigeons.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. Absolutely. I think too
Which I
many
think
leaders
shocks-
look after themselves first.
That shocks some people actually, because I recently had a chat with one of our team about, maybe they might consider opening their own office or whatever, and it was thrown out there as a, something I'd like to do in the future. But when you sit down and have the chat, it was amazing. It went a very quiet conversation for a little while. That so it is something we do promote, and like Thomas said, it's what you want to do. But I think some people have the thought they want to do it, but when the olive branch is out of let's maybe talk closer, it might not going to happen, But I think it's what Thomas said. I mean, I worked for an agent and I bought his office, and I still have the same office today. That's but he saw something in me and offered a 21-year-old to go buy their own real estate agency. So
His name is Ron Wilkinson, right?
his name is Ron Wilkinson. That is correct. Yep.
Yeah.
And he's a beautiful person.
Only real estate leader I ever had. So because I worked for the one company and then bought it. So
The last time we saw him, that was you and me together.
yep. We dropped in to see him at Heatherbray when we were up there. So
That's awesome.
You sound like I think it's Wilkinson Shear, the razor commercial.
That's
and
his-
the commercials line was I liked it so much I bought the company.
So, well, there you are.
and Ron is like that, mate. Anyway, so let's have a look at the third group now, which is from an employer's point of view. What are the mistakes that employers make in real estate?
Well, what are the true costs?
Sorry?
Well, we're doing the true costs.
So what is
Yeah, the true cost of bad decisions. Is that what you're
I've
saying?
not made any bad decisions, so I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, but you're rich. It's okay.
Piss off.
He's just inherited, mate. It's gonna take
Oh, shut up.
15 years before he spends it all. So but listen.
Well, Richard Martinisi was the richest guy, but it turned out you are now, so it's all right.
No, it was funny because I had a lunch yesterday with Richard Martinez, and he said, "Oh, man, I've been running my own show for 5 years." I said, "No, just 2." He said, "No, 7." I said, "No. For 5 years, your parents run your own show." He laughed.
Yeah.
So one of the mistakes that I think that business owners have is to put up with 400-pound gorillas.
Big one. Big one.
I was having a chat with a leader today, and I said to him, as a business owner, let me give you an analogy. You're like running a zoo. And in your zoo, you have a 400-pound gorilla. It's like a bit like King Kong, if you will. It's important to have King Kong because King Kong is a good attraction. There's a lot of people who will buy the ticket to come to your zoo. But imagine if King Kong just fell off the tower. What have you got left? Nothing. So you must make sure you invest in the rest of the zoo.
But that's the point. I think you get the 400-pound gorilla because you didn't recruit, you didn't invest in the rest of your team. That person, and for those who don't know what a 400-pound gorilla is, it's that staff member who thinks that the world can't exist without them. And, if everyone else is getting this, I want double that, and I want this, I want that. And by the way, I don't want to actually work 4 days of the week. I'll just turn up one. And if we haven't recruited, which is one of the bad decisions in real estate, you end up putting up with those sort of people and you have no choice. So what you do, it's be on your own and have no team or have the gorilla. So, it's a leader's fault or an agency's fault for doing it because they haven't prepared better, haven't made them not be in that situation.
What happened is that, the young recruits can't grow. And as they grow, they see that, they be kept down because of the gorilla. And so they end up losing. So all you do is that you're losing potential on the side, and you keep on feeding this gorilla because from 400 goes to 100, 800. I mean, there's more banana you have to buy to feed the gorilla.
Yeah.
My favorite thing to do with the gorilla is to shoot it.
And eat it.
It's a Vietnamese dish.
It allows me to distribute the rest of the bananas to the rest of the zoo.
Yeah.
No, I think it forces you to lose your culture. Like,
What is that noise?
One of us is having a lot of...
One of us is moving something. Not me. My hands are here.
Yeah, you'd lose the culture of your agency, and a 400-pound gorilla will help you do that, because everyone watches them get away with murder and then thinks, well, hang on, you just stopped me from doing that, but you let them, okay, I'm out of here. You know, I'm going to somewhere where it's more fair. So you've got to be...
The funny thing is that when the gorilla is so big, it will break its own cage in walk, and your zoo will have zero gorilla. They're not attraction to people anyway. So you might as well just make sure you have a real zoo. Because if the gorilla leaves, there's still other things, like you have gorilla in the making, right? Of zoo. So
gorillas in the mist. You have gorillas in the mist.
Was in the list.
Oh dear. But yeah, it's so true. And like how many offices do we see where their actual leaders are held hostage by these goddamn gorillas? And you can't, and they can't do anything, you know.
That's why it's called guerrilla warfare.
Oh, is it? Is that right? Guerrilla mafia, isn't that what it's called as well? But yeah, I think one of the other big ones for me is, and which is sort of probably since going through COVID and stuff like that, it's been a big eye opener, is the leaders who expect their team to grow, but they're not prepared to grow themselves. I think that's a huge one. I've seen, like, a lot of people have gone through a lot of changes and dug a lot deeper and found a different level of awareness and understanding and what matters and what doesn't. And, you know, seeing leaders who have remained the same and expect the same, but the people they've gone from here to here, you know what I mean? And the leaders haven't grown with them. But to expect somebody else to change but not change yourself, big no-no. Big no-no.
Beautiful.
Big cost there is you'll end up by yourself with no team and, you know, and whatever else. So
the other one is, and I've experienced this, is holding on to the wrong people too long. And I'm not talking about 400-pound gorillas. You might have employed someone who may not be there.
Microscopic plankton.
So holding on to the wrong people too long.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk a little bit more about it? Because like a lot of people are going to say, hold on, what is a wrong person first?
Well, you get a gut feel. I mean, if you send them the training and they're not involved, you don't feel they're putting in more than they're taking. And it's not a transactional thing. I'm talking about it, but this is their career that I'm talking about. So you'd think they'd want to invest more in themselves than than you would expect. When you're training and you're trying to lift them, but they just they're obstinate in their refusal to improve. When you've had advice that maybe that's the wrong person to have within your business for that, specifically for your area, maybe they don't fit the area very well. Maybe their personality is not the right thing. The way they treat others within your office, and
nice, I like that one.
And maybe pull their attention away from where it should be. That could be also one. And the other one would be some people who lack like a lot of empathy. They don't realise when they're asking the right or wrong questions. So then that might be a recourse. So sometimes you don't know if, while they're doing their job and the job that you ask them to do, the repercussions of the job that you're asking them to do when they're doing their job.
I like it.
Yeah.
And hiring someone who failed the recruit exam.
To prove Thomas wrong.
Well, I used to do that. They used to call me Mr. iPad, I think.
Years ago, it's an iPad. And
each week,
your friend, give an iPad. I'll give you zero result. That'll be the same as the other person.
Because they'd fail the recruiter exam, and I'd try to prove Thomas wrong. That, you know what, I think I can make something from this, and like $20,000 later, Thomas was right, and that person was never going to make it, and I put them on for 4 months and made nothing. So I think it's that, if they don't pass the recruit exam, they shouldn't be there. And we're one of the only groups who runs a full 3-day course, has a written and a practical exam to get in. And you know what? You want to become a doctor, you can't fail university. You want to drive a car, you can't fail your license. So, you know, we set the benchmark higher so we can get the best. And then idiots like me used to let the losers who passed in anyway. And you think, why? You know, so I think it's, you know, a lesson I learned very expensively.
Yeah, but we can't blame you. You're doing the same thing as sellers, which is running on hope. I have already spent that much money. Hopefully they can turn around. And then, so it's just sellers, buyers, employees, owners, we all the same, mate. We run on our human nature, and hope does that to us.
Yeah.
I think another true cost, and I'm not saying that it doesn't apply for salespeople, but for real estate principals, I mean, we've got our houses on the line as an agency owner. So, you know, if we can't run the people to the way, receive, you know, get the targets that we set, get the results in that we need, it costs our family money, it costs our life money, and if it goes bad enough, it can cost us our home. So, yep, we made that decision when we became principals and owned real estate agencies and owned a business. But if we manage it badly, you know, some people can go get another job if it doesn't work out as a salesperson or as a property manager. But you know, not many jobs around for real estate agents or real estate principals who didn't make it, and you've lost your house in the meantime, and you could probably lose your wife and family at the same time. So, you know, I think we've got to realize that, yes, we're employing people, and yes, we've got to work with them the best we can, but we've also got to probably do what Chris said, not keep the wrong people on, because they're the ones that are going to cost us.
Gosh, Chris, I think I found the solution to Steve Thompson. We are going to start our podcast in the future whenever he replaces any one of us at 5. But for Stephen, it's going to start at 3:30. He needs to him. He gets started. He gets going after the second. So what's another employer's mistake? I think another employer's mistake is letting go of the basics.
Yes.
Yep.
You know that's my philosophy, right? So I truly believe that the basics is only allowed to people who have mastered the basics. Novelty then can come in, right? People talk about novelties and new things and new ways of doing things. Show me that you master the basics, then you can have novelties. But that you're no longer mastering it, don't have novelties. And you know, I look at people who play the guitar. You ever seen a guy play with the guitar totally differently, like maybe with his teeth or something, like something new? I don't know. I'm interested in the new, you know? No, they just want to make sure that they can master the way that their fingers can travel the chords faster.
Yeah.
You know, when you say novelties, Thomas, sorry, the basics, master the basics, do you include training in that? Because I think a lot of leaders eliminate or don't do constant training with their team. And I think that's a huge one that costs you. It's a compounding effect in the future.
Absolutely. I agree with you. Anyone who's not understanding this should not have a business, or they will have a business and when they are 63, will still be working in the business.
And if you're a leader that's by yourself and you say, I don't need to train because I don't have a team, well, that's crap as well, because you can be training yourself, you know? And so...
But a leader who's by themselves aren't following the basics anyway, because the basics in our system says you must have 4 salespeople, or you must have 2 salespeople and 2 or 3 assistants. So, you know, it's back to the base. It's following those basics of either numbers or results or...
I think another one for me,
unless they have 4 egos, alter egos, and then they're fine. Do very well in real estate.
It's all about me, myself, and I. The other one, I think it's a huge one, and I think a lot of people pick up on it, is handling cultural breaks within an office very, very quickly. So if you see culture being, you know, challenged, broken, or whatever it may be, handling that very swiftly and quickly, and not allowing that to build.
You know, 100%, Chris. One of the things I learnt recently was the standard that you walk past is the standard that you set. So in other words, if you're willing to turn a blind eye, you're setting your culture right there. And that's been a huge thing for me, because there used to be things that I'd go, not the right time, probably bad, but can't be bothered. That's not good, but I'm in a hurry, I've got to go. No, like, it's the standard you walk past is the standard that you set. And if that's what you're willing to walk past, and you got to think, like, we've got so many people who watch us and watch our moves and watch our decisions, and if we let something slide and they go, all right, well, if they can do that, I'll do that, and if not, I'll do one worse or whatever. So I think 100% right. You know, we've got to be always on guard, particularly for the culture and stuff like that. But yeah, it's a big one. It's a big one.
Another one would be accountability. Another one I thought of is not holding your team accountable to the tasks that they're required to do.
But that stems from not holding yourself accountable.
Exactly, yeah.
Because if you're not holding yourself accountable, then you're not going to hold your team accountable, because then no one needs to be accountable, so we're all okay.
Yeah.
Well done, Steve. Well done. You can stay.
And that's in the back of your culture within the office, right? So,
Yes.
are you into your second bottle, Stephen? Are you into the second bottle?
He's got it. He's got it, mate. He's right on the wheel now.
Cam's coming back next week, so just suck it up, you three, all right?
I'm there next week off, so you're still
I'm not
in
here next week. I'm busy. So
Exactly when he started his second bottle, mate. He's on the roll now. Have a look. Now he's got the audacity to talk back at us. But you know that in cancel you as of now, your screen will just disappear. You understand? So be careful.
We have the mute button. We have the mute button.
is that something I was meant to be scared of?
It's funny because we have a few minutes is recruiting. I personally think a lot of people are focusing on recruiting. This is what I like to say to leaders. Recruiting comes second to retention.
100,000,000%.
Retain the people you have, you know.
Yeah.
Stop wanting what you don't have, start wanting what you have.
Yes, and that's it. How many times do we see people, they treat their new recruits better than they treat the ones that have been there 15 or 20 years? And it's like what we were talking about last week in people paying the don't sell or don't sell, but don't worry about interest rates. We were talking about people that pay the loyalty tax, the premium of loyalty tax, which is staying where you've been forever and getting shafted, because the more loyal you are, the worse you get treated. We don't want to be that person, and we don't want to be that company, but unfortunately it happens a lot. You know, and so that's it, like making sure that we look after the ones we've got before we worry about the ones we don't have.
Very nice. Okay.
Awesome.
Being our guest here, Stephen, we're going to let you finish it after Louise for sure, and Chris. So let's start with Louise. Louise, why don't you just...
Okay. I think real estate or not, bad deals come from bad decisions, and bad decisions probably come from, you know, what's driving us. And I think at the end of the day, if it doesn't sit well in your gut or your mind, there's a reason why we have a thing called our gut instinct. It's probably telling you you're onto something. So be more aware of what your gut's telling you, and forget about what the dream or the thing that you've been sold, or the hope. Like what we said, if you've latched onto hope after you've heard price, you're probably about to make a bad decision. If you've got hope before you've heard price, you're probably about to make a good decision. So be mindful of that.
I love that. I hope someone's going to have that gut and show sellers, because they're going to show sellers how to think properly. That's nice. Thank you, Louise.
It's okay.
When Cam's not around, you think totally differently. You don't worry about him that
I
much.
should have cut her
I'm
off.
just allowed to speak.
Sorry.
I'm just allowed to
Go shut, Louise. What would you know anyway?
Listen, guys. That was a Brene Brown.
What do you
That
say?
was a Brene Brown saying. I'm sorry. That was from direct out of the Brene Brown books.
Well,
Stop swearing. Isn't Brene Brown a swear word?
it is to Mr. Wilson, yes. He's all right. He's a good egg. Anyway, Chris.
Good decisions come from experience. Experience comes from bad decisions. But just don't be scared to make bad decisions, but learn from it. Make sure you learn from it and implement their actions for good decisions quickly.
Nice, Chris. Whole lot of wisdom.
He hasn't finished. And the more money you have, the more bad decisions you can make.
Lucky you got plenty.
Oh God.
Who needs enemies, eh? Who needs enemies?
I think it's fantastic. Both on my parents' side and my in-law side, there's not much money that's going to come to me. So I can't afford bad decisions.
Me too. Me too.
All right.
Ken.
Hey,
Oh, Steve.
You've got two choices. You can slip under the radar, do the bare minimum and hope you achieve your career, or you can set goals, set targets for yourself, involve your family in your business as well, so that like they feel part of the fact that you go to work every day and that you're trying to get something for them, whether you're in property management, customer care, sales. If you share that with your family, share the journey with them all, you've got a lot better chance of not making bad decisions and keeping a real estate career.
wow.
Yeah, very good.
Thank you so much, Stephen. I love you after the second bottle. Thank you, guys. See you next week. Bye.
Hope to see you next week. Goodbye, all.
Bye bye.